Hello, welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. How's things going tonight, everybody? Must be so good they're just speechless.
I was muted. I'm doing fine.
I am well.
Doing good here.
Great over here.
How about in Wisconsin? You guys got snow?
Yep, and cold. Although Paul might be getting the snow that we were supposed to.
Let's see.
Because that track south missed us. We were supposed to have a snowstorm rolling through tonight that last week was anywhere from 6 to 12, and then it started tracking south. So
They had us on the 23rd with 14 inches. Now they're down to 4.
You probably get 27.
We'll see.
Don't bother Manny.
Here's how forecasting works, at least for Wisconsin. You ever go to the carnival and they've got the balloon game where they've got the balloons hanging, you try and pop one with a dart, win a prize? So they've got 3 of those for Wisconsin. I think Illinois is about the same because we share all the same weather. One for summer, one for winter, and then one for spring and fall combined. And so they take the meteorologist, pick the correct season, throw the dart. That's your forecast. 3-day forecast, throw 3 darts that are all numbered. 10-day forecast, same thing. And that's how you get your forecast. Meteorology school is just to learn how to throw the darts properly.
I thought it was just how to guess.
That's how to throw the darts properly.
Okay.
And lie with a straight face.
Okay.
So
It's in other words like estimating. You got your dartboard, the Ouija board. You
Right.
sit down and okay, yeah, there's my number. Okay, we're good.
exactly. It's good to see Raggle Fraggle is making smart decisions.
Uh,
Oh, crikey. Yeah, so you don't like oatmeal raisin, Travis? Wow.
No. And you shouldn't be trusted if you do.
And then you shouldn't trust me.
That means I don't have any credibility then.
Well, credibility and trust are 2 separate things.
No, I knew Mike could get a chuckle out of that.
Uh-huh. Oh, good grief. So
Well, I'd say you guys are both wrong because Chris Sharp likes them too, so therefore you're wrong.
son of a
You gonna argue with that?
Who said what?
Chris Sharp likes oatmeal raisin.
I heard that, but there was something else I thought I heard.
You're wrong.
Okay. Good enough, Jason.
If you agree with him, you are wrong.
So Sean, what is the one worst thing? I'm waiting to hear that.
He said it's one thing worse than oatmeal is disguising it as a cookie and putting raisins in it.
Ah,
Well, you know what? Some folks got no taste, and their only taste they got is they sit on it.
maybe Sean's afraid of Wilford Brimley and all the Quaker oatmeal commercials from the early 90s have traumatized Sean.
My God, Mike, you're telling how old you are. You aren't even close to my age. You actually know who Wilford Brimley was. I'd forgotten
No one
about
is
the old
close to
gent.
your age, Jim. No one.
Yeah, well,
Except
you'll
God.
have that. Wilford Brimley and the big old handlebar mustache.
Good actor. I liked his movies.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some of his commercials were pretty good too.
Yep.
Got the diabetes.
Have to YouTube that boy. Old boy.
No, I eat tree bark for fiber, Sean. It's much more efficient.
What was Yul Gibbons? That is another name. Jason might know. Paul, you might know who Yul Gibbons
oh,
was.
definitely, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Sticks and twig and nuts and fruit and nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Go out anywhere in the world and live, just off of them twigs and nuts that he'd find.
Yeah.
Of course, he was from California too, but hey, what can I tell you?
You're right. The land of fruit and nuts. Fruits and nuts, I should say. I mean, after all, the people vote for Feinstein and Pelosi.
Well, yeah, and everybody else that's there, wow, their governor is really good.
I know Jason doesn't vote for him.
Speaking of governors or ex-governors, Paul, how's your most recent returnee?
Yeah, he got released from making my license plates. I don't understand, Illinois, you got one thing you can always be. As soon as they get elected, 3 or 4 years later, they get put in prison.
Now, this is the type of comment that will get you in trouble. Oh, good grief.
Yeah, Jonathan, you better keep your eye on her then.
See, I knew there was a reason I liked Russ Brumbelow.
Well, yeah, but you're disguising. When you put iced, like frosting on anything, come on. You're putting the frosting on there to mask the rest of the stuff.
Or accent it. I put frosting on animal crackers. That's accenting the animal crackers.
No, I agree with you there. But are we gonna talk about what we did in reloading and shooting, or just about what we're doing with cookies?
This is the cookie podcast now, Josh.
Particularly oatmeal raisin kind of cookies, Travis.
Well, I
Travis,
hope
if you
you
wanna be
enjoy
mad-
that. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, if you want to be mad at a cookie, be mad at a carob chip cookie.
Never
Because
heard
they
of that.
look exactly like chocolate chip cookies and taste like crap.
Well, I'm
Carob's
just-
not bad.
I'm just picturing Jim out in the barn now, eating his oatmeal raisin cookies with a tall glass of warm milk, casting up his bullets and coating them with A-locks.
What? Life is good.
Is that coating his bullets with A-locks or coating his cookie with A-locks?
Well, if he's messing with A-locks, he's coating everything with it. His fingers, his cookies, his glass, everything.
La, 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 la.
Jesus, Pete.
Uh,
This is the Cookie Cart podcast. I mean, we changed the name.
Hey, hit Mark Hookums. That's a funny one right there.
Yeah, good one.
Uh,
Cockroaches in the Navy. We had roaches in the cookies one time.
So, I got the 3D printer up and running and printed a couple of things. I'm still trying to figure out how to convert files from one format to another because Travis has some silly laser cover for his Mark 7 he wants printed.
Oh, so I'm taking it you didn't get me anything printed out then.
I got 2 of the 3 things you asked for printed. The third
Okay.
one, I got to figure out how to convert that file because it's not the right type of file. So, it's 2 types of wrong file. See, if it's an STL, I can use the slicer program that came with the printer to convert it to the format the printer needs. However, the one file isn't even in an STL form. It's in some other goofy form, which I have to then convert into an STL form, so then I can convert into the file that the printer actually uses. So. But then I realized I forgot to upload the podcast for the week to Mark so he could do the editing at about 3 o'clock Sunday afternoon while I was at work. So I had to come home and work on editing Sunday night and then Monday night. And I finally got it all edited last night and fell asleep. So then I posted it tonight, right before the show. So, yeah, Tim, I'll message you after and tell you what the file is.
Yeah, and Fat Elvis. Phil who?
No, we've never
No.
discussed American Insurgent. I own a copy. Jason owns a copy. Mike has a copy. I think Travis has a copy.
I have
never
an autographed copy.
Yes, he does.
Believe it or not.
No, so we've never discussed it.
Actually, we
One-wheel drive.
have.
Jason, you're so bad. Yeah, we do bust on Phil and his one-wheel drive Tacoma.
No, but in all reality, we have talked about his book, and
Yeah.
it really is a good book.
We didn't really go in deep on it. Honestly, Phil didn't really want to do a lot of talking about it, but so I mean, it's not like we really went in and broke it down. But yeah, it's definitely an awesome reading. So, and
No,
one of the
it's-
reasons he's not on the podcast anymore is because he needed a little more time to work on the book. So he said he's about a third of the way done. When I caught on with
A
him
lot
last
of
week.
crayons.
Yeah, and those kind of the
Oh, he's
prepper
doing great.
genres, it's one of the best books, I think.
Yeah. Jason, what you been up to lately?
Oh, went shooting up in Idaho,
I heard about that.
and we only shot out to 300 yards, so it wasn't that exciting. And we did shoot some pistol, but it was so cold, everybody was shivering. It's kind of hard to be accurate when you're that cold. And
Don't forget you stood me up.
I was supposed to meet Travis, and he never showed, so he's an asshole.
We all know that.
No, we know the truth. I've already talked to them about how
We
you
lied.
Californians can't handle a little bit of snow.
So he took my money for a product I purchased, and he didn't give it to me, so he's not trustworthy.
There's a quarter inch of snow on the road, and all of a sudden you can't drive on them.
He's from California. They don't know what it is.
No.
Never
They're used
seen
to just seeing it over on Big Bear and
Yeah.
the other
And
mountains.
I know they have mountains in California and they get snow, but they don't, they just drive along the coast. Just, yeah, look over. Hey, that looks pretty over there. See all that white? I don't even drive in there. Nope.
Yeah, snow caps have a complete different meaning in California.
You guys are assholes.
He's
You just
hoovering-
can't handle when you get busted on correctly.
They're hoovering the schneef.
Oh,
And Chris Sharp, don't ever insult Jason like that again. All right, that's uncalled for.
oh.
Actually, no, Chris. Every one of our vehicles are 4-wheel drive, and my Tacoma has lockers in the rear. So, that was about it for me, I think.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. How come those pictures that I seen of you? We got some feedback somewhere. The pictures I seen of you shooting, there was no snow whatsoever out there.
I was talking about the snow over the pass that I had to get to go over to get the Twin Falls.
Okay.
And seeing how I'm not familiar with the area, I didn't know how much snow would be there, Travis.
I
Travis,
said, "Well, we'll meet up sometime."
he just texts me, "You're a pussy." All right.
I mean, I had the little boy all ready to go, come meet you, have lunch. You just broke his heart. I'll just let you know.
He didn't eat that day, did he?
All right. So who else did something this week?
Fat Elvis has got a question for you, Travis.
I'm on her.
Okay.
You need help identifying those, Jim?
Clink, 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 clink. I got brass.
Looks like brass.
It
Looks
was
like 308 brass.
It was 308 brass.
It was 308 brass.
It is 308 brass.
Okay.
It's nearly ready to load. I got it from a guy on TRR Buy and Sell over on MeWe, a gentleman by the name of Blake Foley, and he and I had a pretty doggone good transaction, even if it did take 3 weeks. That was due to problems I had with my bank. I still haven't resolved that problem, but I got anyway. I got the money over to Blake, and well, I got the brass. He mailed it out on Saturday. I got it Monday.
Nice.
Yeah, I can't argue. I can't complain about that transaction. They come from your part of the woods, Paul.
Okay.
Illinois. It comes from Illinois somewhere.
We go through a lot of brass here.
Well, you still got politicians, don't you, controlling the state?
Well, yeah, but that's why we go through a lot of brass. We have to, practice.
Yeah. Anyway,
Well,
yeah,
please tell me you're going to anneal that brass.
I am. That's the first thing I'm going to do. And the next thing I'm going to do is deburr the primer pocket. I'm sorry, the flash hole from the inside. That's a one-time operation. But this is the first bag I had here. This is 21 rounds of FA58 match brass. I was like, 1958? My God.
I wouldn't touch it.
What do you mean you wouldn't touch it?
58. I mean, the rarity of Frankfurt Arsenal 1958 brass to find it. It's hard,
Well, then I got 122 rounds of FA56.
Jeez.
Yep. This stuff is going to go in my Ruger M77. And I got 110 rounds of WRA 68. Well, the thing is, I wanted 100 rounds of one particular head stamp. Then this gentleman had it, and well, he named a number, and I was willing to agree to it.
You should have said something to me, Jim. I've got a 5-gallon bucket of 308 brass sitting right over there.
Last time he sent something that was headed for me, went to Wisconsin. I still haven't seen it.
You got to take
Next time you need to send it to North Carolina, not Wisconsin, where the cheese heads are.
Hey, I learned a lot of lessons this week then. So, yeah, I'll make sure I
saw that was well-recorded video, Travis. That GoPro worked very well for you. Yes, you had some problems, but you know what? We all do when we shoot that competition.
Well, so that's all done just off the phone. Mike is going to send me a GoPro, so hopefully I can do 2 views next.
Must be an iPhone because it was some good quality video.
No, I don't mess around with iPhones.
Well,
Horrible.
What was it, Samsung?
Yeah. So since we're talking about it, I'll talk about what I did. I went on Saturday and I shot a just kind of spur of the moment. I went and shot a 3-gun match. And what I did was I did so horrible, I decided the best thing to do was to post video of how horrible things went for me. So for all those listening, you can go to our YouTube channel and watch. I'm going to kind of do like a little series, I think, from now on of my matches. And I started a new series on our channel. It's called This Week in 3-Gun. Episode 1 is out. So you guys can go watch and see how horrible and goofy I am. I kind of thought it was worth watching if you guys are interested in shooting 3-gun or anything like that. So on that whole line of things, I had some issues, but you guys got to go watch the video to see what those issues were. But I got in a new NOE mold for the 9mm. This one's 147 grain. So I'm going to cast up those, do some new load development for that STI pistol. Got some new dies coming and a 100-round shock top case gauge ammo checker. Hopefully will help with those issues I had. So Paul, what'd you do?
Well, I chambered and fitted a new barrel to a Sig P239, and went out and tested it on Sunday, and so far pretty good. Needs a little feed ramp work, and we'll see if we can get it running a little better. But very accurate, because the first 3 rounds that the girl fired through it were bullseyes, exact bullseyes. So, and that was that. And then I got the test chamber reamer for the 6XT with the 85 grain Sierra. So, and then I put a couple of dummy loads together with it to see how it worked, and okay, we're doing okay. So that's now off to the reamer is off to the LRI, and along with the action in the first barrel. So 1 barrel down, 1 more to go. So that was my fun for the week. And yes, Travis, I had the same problem you had as far as in my 2011 when I went and checked it this weekend, and had the same problem with empties sticking in the chamber. So you're not alone.
Good.
And I am going to switch down to right now I'm running I'm running a 13-pound spring in it right now, variable rate spring. I'm going to switch down to an 11 variable rate and see what happens.
Yeah, that's somewhere else. I posted some video or something of us at the range, and I settled on a 13-pound Springco spring is what I decided to go with, and it's working out good for me.
Okay, but it's still, is it jamming the round into the chamber, not allowing it to come back?
We're talking the recoil spring here, yeah.
Yeah, but the recoil spring drives the slide forward.
Correct.
And remember, the 9mm is a short cartridge for 1911, so it gets a running start, hits, and that's why
jams it in.
Right.
Yep, jams it in there. Yep.
Yeah. So that's why I'm trying to go to an 11 to see if it still does that.
Yeah.
Which
so
is
if
$9, I mean,
Yeah. So if I don't know, I can't remember where I posted. It must have been Instagram. Did some slow-mo, and the reason I went with that 13-pound was because that gave me the flattest shooting out of all the springs we tried. So just once I just get past because I had basically, for those listening, I'd like you to go watch the video on YouTube, but I had 3 spent cases get stuck in the chamber. So that's what we're talking about right now. And like Paul's saying, he was dealing with the same problem. So obviously we both have match chambers too on our 2011s, because the ammo is running great and everything else, but all this other stuff I've picked up and going to be doing some load development and stuff for. Hopefully I just won't ever have, basically out of spec ammo for that pistol again.
That's what we're looking for.
So I'm guessing since Paul's on today, we're going to go back into our precision reloading series with Paul, correct?
Yep.
And I want to hear from some of the people out there if they have any questions about up to now. We've gotten all to the point of basically getting ready to charge the case. We've understood that we're going to get within 2/100ths of a grain in the powder. We understand we're going to be seating the bullets and how we're going to seat the bullets, because there's going to be differences there, and the case prep and everything else that we've gone through. So does anybody have any questions? Some people had some questions before on the other one. Chris, I believe, had some questions. And the question I believe that I remember seeing was whether to turn case necks or not. And if you know your chamber, you can turn your case necks if they're going to be tight, or you don't want this extreme expansion of by turning your case necks. If you got a tight chamber, you know your dimensions of your brass, you're going to get 1, 2, maybe 3 thousandths expansion at the of the brass. Okay, you can turn them 1/2,000. But if you're sitting there going, I got a factory chamber, I don't know where it's at, and I'm just going to turn my brass, it ain't going to matter, guys. I mean, it's really, you're just wasting your time. Turning brass is to even out the neck, but if you don't know if your chamber's good as far as when they ran the reamer into it, did they just, the guy went like this with the machine and, ram it in, set it, come back, ram it in, come back. Hey, it's there. Okay, next. He goes to the next barrel. Lakeview Outdoors. How often are you annealing your brass? Every time. Every firing.
Can you over anneal?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Not temperature wise. So your temperature settings are correct.
No, you don't. You cannot over anneal as far as
The amount of times.
the amount of times. No, if you're as long as you're just heating up that area of the neck here, from here to here,
The neck, and then 1/8 to 1/4 past the shoulder.
right.
Right.
And I want the shoulder to be soft, because when I'm checking with my gauge here and it sits, I want it to sit so it's exactly perfectly on that line.
So Sean just asked, do you clean the brass prior to annealing? And
Yeah.
the answer for me is yes, because I don't want to cake on anything that's already there. So, and it's also the up to the individual, the steps that they take in their brass prep. But yes, I would highly recommend cleaning your brass prior to annealing. No need to have any contaminant that doesn't need to be there.
And I don't use a tumbler to clean my brass. I use ultrasonic cleaning because it doesn't polish the brass, it cleans the brass. I always want, when my brass expands in my chamber, I don't want any back thrust into the bolt. I want just the brass to grab the chamber and hold it. Scale. If I was going to buy a new scale now, because of the features, FX120i, and upgrade to the auto trickler with it.
Yeah. Also tell us about how much that setup is, though.
$1,000. It's $1,000. How long is it going to last you?
Forever.
Mike,
Right.
pick up ZNS, man, quick QWERTY. Yeah, that one. Paul, that one's for you.
Okay, I use the RCBS cleaner because I've tried using the lemon shine and all that, and I just get what I feel is a more certain case cleaning with it. But hey, and I don't make mistakes with the makeup of the chemical. In other words, I'm only supposed to add a half an ounce of lemon shine, and I add an ounce. And I've experimented, and I've got the orange cases to prove it.
Yeah, it leaches out the zinc or something.
Right. Yeah. So, that's one of the things. Right now, I'm using the A&D EJ123 scale. It measures to 2/100th of a grain. It's good, not the best, but like I say, it's a $300 scale, the $350. But it is accurate. It's responsive enough, and it's a good scale. I've probably got 4 electronic scales somewhere around here, and I still have my original RCBS 1010 that I was started reloading with. And if you want a good balance beam scale, I understand. Redding used to make one that was really, really good. It wasn't oil dampened or dampened in any way, but it just took so long to get it to relax and find its way. Stefan, you ran a bunch of LC 556 brass through a Dillon case trimmer sizer. If you set the sizer right, no, there should be no need to resize them.
Okay, so I was actually typing up something just as you answered that. So this is how I've done it, and this is what I personally find to be the best. So he says, I just processed a bunch of Lake City 556 brass with the Dillon case trimmer / sizer. So the Dillon trimmer you have a sizing die that you run through and it sizes and trims. So he's asking if he should run them through a regular size die before he loads them up. Is there any reason to size them again? So the answer is maybe. The way that I have been doing it is I do a 2-step process in that. So some guys swap these. So what I do is I first have a sizing die in, just ahead of your case trimmer. I partially size the brass then. The main thing with that sizing die for the trimmer is to hold the brass so it doesn't spin in your die. So I partially size in the size in 8, doesn't matter what brand, whatever, partially size in the sizing die. And then as it goes into the trimmer, it sizes it again fully and then trims it. If you're finding that just running it through the sizing die once and trimming it, check it in a case gauge or check all your specs. If you don't need to, then there's no reason to size it again. But for me personally, I do it in a 2-step process. Also, the sizing die in the trimmer doesn't have a neck expander or anything in there too.
What powder weight accuracy do you consider minimum for 300-yard F class? I do not shoot F class, but I shoot prairie dogs. So my targets are about 3 inches wide and 10 inches tall. And that's anywhere from 100 yards to 700 yards. My eyes are getting old. I don't see past that. What powder weight accuracy? And I say I still load everything to 2/100ths of a grain. So you 223, 6 millimeter Remington, the new 6XC, 22 250, 22 Hornet, 218B. What else? Oh man, I got. So I have a 25-06 and 308, and those, depending upon what time of year and everything, different guns will go out with me. So, but everything gets loaded to 2/10, 2/100ths of a grain. Excuse me, 2/100ths of a grain, and you'll look at as I tried to explain to Jim before, that 1 grain of Varget, 1 granule of Varget, can affect your velocity that I have seen by up to 15 feet per second. So it goes up and down, up and down. You can sit down and do it the way I test that is by taking 1 case, size it, load it, shoot it. Again, size, load, and shoot, and you vary that 1 granule back and forth, and you'll see the difference in your velocities. Yes, you can do it. Don't use military brass, and you'll need a 708 die, and you need a 7 millimeter reamer.
This is an answer to Greg Wyatt's question. Ever make a 243 308 just to turn the necks to have a tight neck chamber out of a standard chamber to improve accuracy? That answer was for that question.
Right. You need a 7 millimeter inside neck reamer, because as you go down from 308 to 7 millimeter, you need to ream it out. So a donut will build. The donut will build at this junction of the case right here, and you will not get it out by outside neck turning. And that donut can cause some serious pressure issues.
Raggle Fraggle has posted a question. Have you looked into the 17 Hornet? He's had his for a couple years now, and he's taken a few varmints with it, but he hasn't shot it past 100 yards.
No, I've never looked at the 17 Hornet. I've tried way back in the day. I tried the 17 Remington, and it was hard to get 17 caliber barrels that were good. That has changed now. There are good barrels for it, but 22 Hornet, that's fine for me.
While we have a lull in the conversation here, for the sake of full disclosure, ZN Assman, QWERTY, and I have actually known each other since I was in the reserves. He served with me in the reserves, and I've known him longer than the podcast has been around. Evening to you, Zach, man. Nice to have you on the chat. So there, he's got his shout out. You're welcome, buddy.
Travis, you want to explain what you typed to Steven? Because that way the people that are listening understand how you've got your 2-die setup going.
Sorry, what was that, Mike?
I said, do you want to explain what you typed to Steven so that way the listeners know how you've got your 2-die setups?
Yeah, let me grab my tool head real quick.
Okay.
So I was just telling Steven the way that I do it, and I've done it both ways, and at least for me, this is what works out best for me. So I've got my 1050 tool head, and first thing I do, of course, I'm running the FW Arms setup here. So I've got the FW Arms decapper first. Second, I've got the FW Arms swage backer die. And then next, I run it in a Mighty Armory sizing die. That's my first sizing process, and I don't fully size that all the way with this setup. I'm just partially sizing. And then it goes into a blank station, and then next it goes into the Dillon trim die setup. And I should have taken this off, but it has a sizing die here, and then the trimmer attaches to that sizing die. And when we talk about trimmers again, I'll go back over all this. So what I'm doing is I'm partially sizing with the first sizing die, and then I'm going all the way to the bottom to get the rest of the sizing done with the Dillon size trim die. So I'm sizing and trimming at the same time. So that way I've got, hold on one sec. Riveting stuff here, guys.
It's probably one of the most accurate ways of trimming brass.
Yeah, and this is I'm getting really good. I've done it where I've ran it in the Dillon trimmer first, and then a standard sizing die, and it works out way better for me to do it the other way. And I've talked to people in the industry who do this kind of semi professionally, and they're telling me they run it the same way as I'm doing. So I just took off that cover so you can see the trimmer. It's got a little window right there, but there is no it's basically it's a sizing die, but if you didn't have this hold tight on your brass, when the trimmer actually hits the to actually trim your brass, it would just spin in whatever hole in your shell plate. So this really holds on to your brass so that it can be trimmed. And for a lot of people who know about Dillon sizing dies, they know that Dillon really undersizes their brass, in my opinion, and most other people's. So that's the setup I'm running. So anybody else can run it if they want to move this sizing die over here and not run a decapper, but I've got the room and I've got the nice setup, and I really prefer the FW Arms decapper over anything else right now, just because of these bushings here. That way I can run this decap swage partially size. And when I say partially sized, I'm going most of the way. Just that last little bit is done by the Dillon. But that way I'm actually sizing the neck and everything, the case mouth, everything with the Mighty Armory. And then it comes back and has enough tension on it that the Dillon can still hold the last part of the brass, last bit of the brass, and actually hold on to it and trim it and not spin it. So,
Travis, it sounds like you got a 55-gallon barrel there on your left side. Metallic reverberation.
Okay, Valvis, how much neck clearance are you looking for when turning your necks for a chamber? 2 to 3 thousandths total. So that's it. Thousandths on each side, thousandths and a half.
I concur.
I've had tighter necks, but then you get inconsistent release unless you really, really have a good lathe to turn your necks. They are getting better. 21st Century has a really good one that they've come out with, and it cuts all the way back to the shoulder of the case, and it's a nice setup. But that's what you're looking for. You're looking for 2 to 3 total. What we got here? All right. Yep, you're right.
Andy Peard wants to know, is swaging or reaming better for accurate loads, or does it not matter?
Swaging what? Primer pockets or reaming primer pockets? Is that what he's asking?
Yep.
Personally, I prefer not to remove any more metal than I have to. I'd rather move the metal rather than remove the metal. That's me personal. How about you, Paul?
I don't think I have ever had extreme accurate brass, that military brass that has had crimp primers, that I can say that it's going to be super accurate. So I'm going to say I always swage my primer pockets. That's just the way I go with it. Lots of different tools out there to do it with. What do we got? You're sitting here looking at an RCVS swaging tool. You have the press mounted ones. Yeah, they all work.
Hunt, shoot, off road. The answer to your question is yes. That question is, do you only swage once? He's asking because once you remove the crimp in the primer pocket, it's not coming back unless you crimp it.
Yeah. Unless you have a crimping tool for it, which you can order.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not. You and I both know there's no need to crimp our primer pockets.
No,
But
no.
the military builds their ammunition not so much for accuracy, but for reliability. And remember,
Well,
the military refills their ammunition for a whole spectrum of rifles. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of rifles at a time. Your ammunition has to work in every one round, has to be able to work in any one of those 10,000 rifles.
Yeah. But there's lots of reason for crimping primers. And that's the deal.
Okay, Mike, we got a good question. Another good question from Hunt Shoot Off Road. So why have one in a progressive press? If you would highlight that, Travis, we're going to throw that question your way.
Have what? Trimmer?
Swaging tool for your primer pocket in a progressive press.
So the reason to have anything in a progressive press is just get it all done at once. So like if Jason, he's got that 650, if he wanted to swage his brass and he did not have the swage, he's going to run all of his brass. Depends on how he does it. He'll have to obviously decap his brass, do whatever else on his press. Then he's going to have to go back and grab a tool like Paul just showed us and handle all that brass to swage his primer pockets. But he can also just throw on that swage it on his 650, do it all in one process, decap, size, swage, all of it, and just in one process and not have to handle that brass again.
Well, the other question is, okay, Travis, you just ran 1,000 rounds of ammo. You're working on ammunition you reloaded. Okay, you fired it up, burned it all up, all that stuff. Now you're going to reload your once fired, twice fired, thrice fired brass. Do you swage those pockets again?
You can take off the swager.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a pin on the 1050. He pulls a pin, the swager comes right out. So that's pretty simple.
I realize that, but I realize.
But also that's all the spec. So if you have your on the 1050, it doesn't matter because only those that are crimped, it's doing any work on. Those that are not crimped, it's not doing anything to. So if you have it on there and you find some that you didn't crimp or remove the crimp from in whatever process you had, when you run it through to load up again, it's going to go through that station and it will remove that crimp that you could have missed in another process.
Right. Well, Hookem also came up with a good answer for you too. Swaging more than once. What if you got your reloaded brass, okay, 6 or 8 times fired, whatever it is. But if you pick up a fresh range pickup, that still needs to be reconditioned.
Right.
Yeah, I may be wrong, but I don't feel like I'm overworking those primer pockets, because it's just only removing the crimp from a primer pocket if there is one. If there's nothing to be removed, it's just going into the primer pocket, not causing any issues.
Okay.
I can say I've never had a loose primer yet.
Well, you're not running real hot ammo either.
Correct. That's going to be worse than running it through a swage station.
I agree.
Now, I run a lot of hot ammo, so especially in rifles. So I'm sitting there looking at. I'm not going to run military brass through those guns to do that. I'm usually using a Lupua, Norma, or some worked over Winchester, Remington, or whatever brass. And I'm very careful about how the primer pockets are being treated, and really more careful about how my head, my case head is being, because once I get to a certain point, that case head is going to give up on me.
Yep.
So what you guys may look at reloading something for, say 10 times, I'm sitting there looking at, I'm really good if I get 5 reloads out of my brass.
Yep.
And so that to me is one original firing, and then 5 more. So that's 6 loads. And that's what I say a lot of times when I've talked before on this, that when I'm done with my brass and I know what's on the 6th load and I fired it, I may just let it go. Somebody else is going to pick it up. And let's see. Hold on one second.
Well, I just posted an article in the reloading room about measuring case heads with a blade mic. But you have to be able to measure and understand. You got to measure case head expansion to the 10th of a thousand. That way you've got something tangible and measurable.
Okay. 223 case. If you look, it has a very hard time going into this. There it goes. Okay. Into that shell holder.
That's because of head expansion. That's a
Head
hell
expansion.
of a hot round.
Right. But this is after 6 loads.
Okay.
Okay.
That much head expansion, that's your primer's got to be falling out.
No. I could put a primer in this right now and not a problem with it. But that's a custom chambered especially for me, and knowing that the Lapua brass as well it is, that it's holding it's going to hold itself together well enough. But to me, this is a piece of junk now. But I kept it to show you guys what I'm saying about case head expansion.
And while you were getting that shell holder and case, I made mention of the fact I posted an article in the reloading room where we use a blade style micrometer to measure the case head, and you actually are measuring case head expansion after firing.
Right.
Before and after firing. When you get 2 or 3 tenths expansion after one shot, that's pretty hot ammo.
Mm-hmm. Of course. So, and remember, it's cumulative.
That's right. Once the case expands, the case head expands, it doesn't shrink back. And you're not going to resize that with your resizing die.
No.
There's not enough force. There's not enough radial force to compress that case head back down to a nice tight primer pocket.
Where does your die end up at? Your die ends up nowhere near the case head.
That's right. It's usually about 1/8 of an inch above the extractor groove.
Right. So, and we're looking at a piece of little 223 brass, that I know is in the close to 70,000 psi.
Mm-hmm. But you're not running that in an AR, are you, Paul?
No, that's in a bolt gun.
Good. I don't think an AR would stand 70,000 psi.
Oh yeah, it will.
Well,
proof load on an AR is on a 5.56. Don't quote me 100%, but I believe it's somewhere in about 115,000 psi.
I don't want to shoot that. Not from the shoulder, anyway.
Every military gun gets it.
I know that.
I don't. If it lets go, it lets go.
Well, if it lets go at the factory, that's a good thing.
Right. Okay, Dusty. Question is, measuring a loaded round more accurate for measuring neck tension or measuring thickness technique? I'm trying to find mine for 308, but don't have bullets to seat and measure. Neck tension or thickness. Tension is the way to measure, but in order to measure tension the right way, you have to have consistent brass. In other words, from one piece of brass to the next, there can't be any variations in it. So in other words, it has to be annealed to the same. It has to be the same thickness all the way down the line. So there are a couple of companies that make, if you're getting that into just that part of it, a couple of companies make hydraulic presses that are hydraulic gauge and work with hand seating dies, so you can actually measure the amount of pressure that it takes to seat each bullet. Does that answer the question there? Okay. Jonathan again. Neck sizing versus full length. Depends. First off, no firing pin. Reason for this is when you close the bolt on the gun, you get the tension from the firing pin and the cocking action. One of our little tiny cases here. This is a 7 mag. We put it in. Watch. Tension. That's it. Can everybody see that?
Do it again one more time, please, Paul.
Sure. Watch. See how I'm pushing on the bolt here with just one finger?
Right.
Okay. I'm feeling the tension of the case coming into the chamber and hitting the neck shoulder junction. Okay. I can feel that. That's a properly sized hunting case. This case is full length sized, but adjusted full length sized. In other words, I'm not running it all the way down to the bottom. I'm running it so my neck gauge, when I'm neck shoulder here, measures and it just kisses. So in other words, it's not 1,000, it's exact. Each one, it gets run in until it's exactly that size. So as you put it in, you come in, you can take and just with your thumb, finger, it will come in and hit the case without any, hit the shoulder without any problem, and you will feel it. You leave the firing pin in, you won't feel it. You have all that resistance in the cocking stroke because it's cock. That's when you're coming up against the cocking stroke on the gun. Take your firing pin out. It's easy. Shoelace. Pull it back. It unscrew it. Comes out. You're done.
Well, with my Mossberg MVP, it takes a little bit more than a shoelace to pull the spear back. It takes actually, I had to put it up against a piece of brass which is with up against a workbench.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I got it out. And that's a good idea. Not resizing, getting a feel for how to set your chamber,
Right.
or
That's-
not set your chamber, set your
Set your
full length
case.
size,
Right. Your full length sizing to
resize
your
the cage
chamber.
to fit
Right.
the chamber dead on the money.
Yes, that's what you're looking for. It isn't hard. It really isn't hard. But take the bolt out and take the firing pin out,
Mm-hmm.
so you don't have the spring and to fight, and you're good.
I agree.
You can't full length resize? Yes, I am full length resizing. I'm full length resizing to my dimensions of my chamber. That's a full length resize. Full length resizing to just to go all the way to the bottom of the die. No, that's oversizing the case. I want that next shoulder to touch as I'm closing it. Not hard. Not hard at all. It just so you can feel it. I can feel the drag as it closes with one finger.
Well, see, Paul, now there's where I think you and I are going to disagree in this discussion. Whereas, you know how to use a micrometer, okay?
Right.
That
Mhm.
takes a light touch. Okay, use of the thimble on it, friction thimble, and all that. However, personally, I like a little bit stronger touch when I'm seating that loaded round into my chamber. I like a little bit more positive feel where I'm not really putting any heavy pressure on it, but just maybe a quarter of a thousandth more pressure than you're talking about. You know, it's like instead of one finger, it's like a finger and a half. You know what I mean? But I got strong hands.
I would agree with you in all of that, except I've been in places where it's been really dusty and poor conditions in hunting, and the grit that gets blown around can affect the chambering of a cartridge. Because I don't hunt with a round in my chamber.
Ah,
I don't hunt with a round in my chamber. When I see the game, I will open the bolt, close it. My safety is off at that point anyway, and I'm ready to go. But there won't be a round in my chamber at that.
okay. Well, that's the difference in technique or procedure. I do hunt with a loaded round, and I do hunt with my safety on.
I understand. You know, I've just had or seen too many things that go wrong, so I'm just that way.
Well, the other thing is too, for hunting ammo, ordinarily most of my shooting is done from the bench, but hunting ammo, I would resize it, full length resize it, maybe have a 2000s undersize, because it's more. I'm building that ammo for reliability, not necessarily dead on accuracy. One MOA is good enough for me when it comes to hunting ammo. Yes, I've shot 3/10 MOA, and I like that, but at the same time.
Okay, hunt, shoot, off road. If you're having headspace issues, you wouldn't be able to full length resize, though, correct? What kind of headspace issues are you having? That's the real question. If you're having a headspace issue, then your die isn't set up right.
Well, he's always okay. He answered your question.
Okay, you full length resize, you over full length resized.
But your primers recently started backing out.
Right. And he says, I always full length resize, but recently my primer started backing out. Do you know when you measured your case here, like this, with a gauge?
Hold your hand up about an inch higher, Paul. Thank you.
When you measure your case like this with a gauge, and you're up against the shoulder with this shoulder bump gauge, and you measured this, is this where you set your die to? That shoulder bump right there this surface right here matches this surface right here matches this shoulder right there.
The funnel
this-
matches the cone.
Right. So, and you can get the exact measurements then because of this cone type, because it seats up against it's the exact angle of the chamber to the case. It measures, you got an exact line right down the line here, right down that line. You can look in a book and they'll tell you how long that's supposed to be.
That's right.
So I'm sitting there. That's why I don't prefer the Hornady gauges. I prefer these because this gives me an exact line, and I can sit down and say I chambered this case in there, and after it's been fired, I can take and measure it again, and it tells me, hey, it's 2 thousandths longer.
Okay. Well, there's only one issue with your statement. You got to remember, most of us don't have that specialized equipment.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say, Jim, for what the listeners and viewers got to keep in mind, though, is this little series we're doing with Paul. Paul is showing us more precision
Yes.
stuff than this. Isn't like for everybody has to go out and do this. Paul is showing us what he does. This is his techniques. And Paul is a very experienced reloader, and
Yep.
he's showing us more advanced stuff right now.
That's right. And he's doing a hell of a good job of doing it too.
Correct. He's showing us, he's showing, like he just said it right there. I'm using the Hornady comparator. He's using what I would say is a tool that's far superior than, and he just basically said the same thing.
Where'd you get that tool, Paul? Sinclair International?
Sinclair International, and it's their shoulder bump gauge kit. It's not a gauge kit, but they sell individual shoulder angles. Okay, so each one is marked like this one here. I don't know if you can see it with glare, but this one here is marked 26.
Paul,
They-
how do you actually measure that? Take that measurement. Do you use a micrometer or do you use dial calipers?
Go to the book.
No. How when you're actually measuring
Oh,
from the headspace difference from the fired to unfired case, unfired to fired case. I'm sorry. How do you actually? What tool do you actually use to measure that length?
Sinclair. Okay.
So you're
But-
putting it in your dial calipers. Am I correct, sir?
In my dial calipers, my electronic, you can use the same one from Hornady.
Right.
Yeah. So he's saying he puts that in there and he takes a fired case, gets his measurement, basically can write that measurement down, and then he goes over and starts bumping the shoulder back, and he can visually see how much he's bumping that shoulder back.
That's right. So that's what I was saying. I didn't know if he was using like a 2 to 3 micrometer or 2 to 3 inch micrometer, or was he using a dial caliper? I just didn't know he was using.
I'm using a dial basically an electronic one.
Yeah.
Eyes are too old now, but as Hunt Shoot is asking, they come in different degree shoulders. Okay,
Yes.
so this matches the shoulder of your case that you're working with.
Yes,
So
sir.
Paul, we would have to find out in a book or something the angle that the piece of brass we're working with, and then match that angle up
Correct.
to
Correct.
match. You can't just exactly. You can't just go out there and just start picking random ones. We have to, like I said, this is advanced stuff in my opinion for most reloaders. So we're gonna have to find out. We're gonna have to know a little bit more before we just start going to town and doing some of these procedures. We're gonna need to find out the angle of our brass, and then we're gonna have to go in and match it up to the
Along
tool
those
that-
along those lines of what Travis just said, and there's a question in the chat about that. That nomenclature you were talking about on that Sinclair International shoulder bump gauge, is that nomenclature the actual angle of the?
Yes, it's the actual angle of shoulder.
Thank
so
you.
that
sir.
26 is actually 26 degrees on your shoulder.
Exactly. Jim, you reload 280 Ackley, 40 degree
Ackley.
shoulder.
Right. That's, yes,
Okay.
sir.
You can get a 40 degree shoulder bump gauge.
Very good, sir.
So if and the nice thing about it is that 40-degree shoulder bump gauge would also work with 22-250 Ackley improved because it's got a 40-degree shoulder.
I didn't realize that. That's a good point. Very good point. And thank you, sir. That's a nice little trick.
You know, so you're sitting there looking at you know, maybe you need if you need 10 of them, you're going to spend $100. Okay. All right. And it is not as easily convenient as the Hornady, because the Hornady is, hey, you only got what, 5 or 6 of those little pieces there? Yeah, 5, 6, you know, and you can sit down and say, okay, but it just gives you an estimate where it is at the shoulder. In other words, you press a little harder, it's going to move because it's a tapered case, and you're going just by the little ring that you have on that circle there.
Punch Shoot's got another excellent question, but part of that answer is going to be, he compares it to an unfired case, HSO. He can use it also to make his brass down to semi-specs. But to go to semi-specs probably is not what Paul's looking for. He's going to build his ammunition to fit his gun, not fit semi-specs.
Yeah, I don't want semi-specs. I want my gun specs.
There you go.
For Paul, like I said, advanced. For Paul,
That's right.
Sammy spec is not good enough. He's trying to get it fit to his chamber.
Or since Hunt Shoot Off-Road is in Australia, he's probably using CIP, not Sammy.
Well, no, he probably is using Sammy, because a lot of most of his stuff that he's getting is English for him, and CIP, even though it is they're not, Australia is not part of the EU, and most of the stuff that he's getting is American.
Okay.
So I understand where he's coming from. CIP, like if you look up for my 6XC, you will not find it in Sammy specs. All right. It's a CIP cartridge. So not listed. So, you know, that's one of the reasons why I want to play with it, is because it's not a off the shelf round that you can get. And I got to play more games to get to where I want to be with it.
Okay, Hookem asked the same question you just answered, Paul. Mark, what I'm talking about is, Paul said that the 40-degree shoulder for my 280 Ackley, 40-degree shoulder bump gauge for my 280 Ackley improved will work in the 22-250 cartridge because they're the same shoulder angle. So what I'm saying is, if it's a larger diameter like 280 AI would be, compared down to 22-250, which is 224, it will work because it's the angle of the shoulder that's being measured, not the diameter.
Correct.
Right.
It's the angle. Yep.
And Hunt Shoot Off-Road just confirmed everything you said about CIP versus Sammy, Paul.
Yep. I have never used a Redding instant indicator. Signal
Yeah.
Soldier 31.
I have
never
no
used
idea what that is.
it's got a dial gauge that's fit into a die, and it's supposed to read shoulders and everything else. I have never used one because I don't trust dies.
Oh, that. Okay, I've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
It's instant indicator headspace and bullet comparator. Okay.
That looks like a nice tool. Let me zoom in on that link, Mike, so I can go check that out.
Spend your money, honey. Spend the money, honey.
It'll be in the show notes.
Hold on, seriously though, while you got that highlighted, okay, I'll just go over there right now. I was going to say, send it over in the private chat.
He's going.
So basically, for the simpletons, what I'm hearing is we just got to go look somewhere and find out what the shoulder degree is, and then we can go buy the tools that you're talking about. Where is the best info for us to find what angle all the cases we're looking at.
Your
Reloading
reloading
manual. That's true. I
I'd
was
say
going to say the
most-
same thing.
Say most of your reloading manuals should have that info.
right.
Somebody in the chat had mentioned about Widden Gunworks has their own shoulder bump gauges too, so I've got those. They'll be in the chat. Now, the nice thing about Widdens, each individual gauge has a set screw and is designed to go onto your caliper versus having an adapter that it goes into.
Yeah. So you're going to pay about $5 more per unit with his versus the other one. But hey, they all work the same. They're all
Right.
have, as long as they have the shoulder angle. That's what you're looking for.
He doesn't say whether his doesn't really go into description, but they've got the chart here and it just lists the calibers, and then it's got their part numbers for the gauge.
Right.
So that'd be the interesting thing I'd want to know is how it checks shoulder.
Yeah, I can say right now, Mike, I just went to the Reading online one that you just sent me to. They don't have the price on there.
No,
They're
That's
$100.
annoying.
They're just about $100. I think 90 some dollars plus the gauge, the gauge. Off
What's
the top of my head.
It's an online catalog, but I don't even see where you can add it to your cart.
but it's an online catalog only.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
not.
it's
It's not an actual
yeah.
shop. It's just the catalog.
Right.
I got you.
Right. That's the way Reading does it. Is they've got a catalog that's separate from, so that you can actually download. By the way.
I'm just doing it right now. So basically, this tool you just showed us, Whedon Gunworks has one very similar. You're saying.
Travis, by the way, Robin Sharpless told us that we can get, because since we're podcasters and we're part of the media, we can get a media discount, a pretty substantial media discount, in fact. But you have to call in.
Okay, what do we got here now? Lakeview Outdoors, yes, 20 degrees for 243 Winchester, same for 308.
We have another question for you, Paul. How many degrees can a chamber vary from one 308 to another 308 with both being from the same manufacturer? In other words, he's wanting to know if the shoulder could vary a quarter of a degree, half degree, even a full degree. It's something like that. I would think it have to be less than a full degree.
Well, let's face it, they got to be Sammy spec by the time they go out, right?
True.
So, Sammy's, I'm not sure what Sammy spec is right off the top of my head, but every case that I've seen through it has had, has been close to specifications. I've never seen a degree off here or there or anything like that. So even a half a degree.
Let me Google up Sammy's chamber drawing.
Well, just real quick, also, Whedon Gunworks is a friend of ours, and Chris Sharp just said he ordered the die set from Whedon Gunworks, and the shoulder bump gauge came with the set, with the bushings. And I believe when I talked to Chris about this, I think that set he ordered was on sale also. I don't know if that sale's still going on or not, but it sounds like that'd be a good thing. Get all your stuff at one place, and it all matches up.
Okay.
Hunt Shoot Off Road. Yes, Sinclair will fit the Hornady comparator. Fat Elvis. When trying to size accurately for an M1A, should you measure a once fired case from the rifle while the gas system is off? I do not measure a a case for a M1A. It is very, very energetic in its handling of the case. So my idea there is to small base size it. I am not going to worry about the brass after its third firing. In other words, it junk. I buy my 7.62 by 51 brass when I find them on sale that are primed and pulled, and work with them from there. We'll pull the spindle assembly and take the depriming pin out and resize the case as far as to the small base die set, and then run it that way. Reason being, okay, let's see. See if I can.
It's plus or minus. The tolerances on that, Zach, would be plus or minus a quarter of a degree.
Okay. This is not how it really looks, but the idea is here. Okay. What you're looking at is the chamber and the case. Chamber,
Mm-hmm.
case.
Yep.
What I want is that case to be positioned the same place every time. Small base dies then allow me to gives me that consistency that it's going to lay down in the chamber the same place. It's a little different situation for an M1A. Extremely hard on brass. Extremely. Three reloads. That's it. Toss it.
Can't be any worse than HK91.
Well, HK91, yeah, yeah, you're right. HK91 is the worst.
Yep. They put longitudinal stripes on, and they put a dent in the side of that case that actually you can see the fiber of the brass starting to break.
They make a case buffer for the HK91 that you can put on, and that will stop that from happening. But otherwise, yes, that's why you buy surplus Berdan primed ammo for an HK91.
Yeah, I quite agree. That's a good question, Paul. That's on you, buddy.
Yes.
And you pull the extractor. How do you get the case out of the chamber?
I can most of the time the extractor is not a problem. It's the ejector that's the problem.
Yeah, it would be.
The extractor is not a problem. Extractor's not adding anything to it. The ejector is.
You're talking about that last little bit where you can actually feel that. Then in that case, without the firing pin, you should be able to feel the extractor snap over the rim of the case.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
But the ejector is what adds resistance, and that's easy. That's drive a pin out and put it in, or little secret, I take a tool and I can push it in and offset it. Not recommended for everybody.
Yeah, I can see that, because eventually what will happen is you're going to have somebody that doesn't have an ejector working properly.
Right. And then it's a little work to come in, take it out, ream it, put a new spring and ejector in, and go from there.
Yep.
Doable, but
That's not for the average everyday shooter.
No, but if the average everyday shooter takes his firing pin out and his spring, then he'll still get a good feel for the gun. Okay.
Yep.
You know, he'll still get a good feel because he can sit down and close it without a case in there, and then close it with, and get a feeling. But you try and overcome that. What 50, 60-pound spring?
Oh, you're
Okay.
talking about the firing pin.
Firing pin spring, yeah.
Yeah, oh God, yes. You'll never feel that.
Right. So take them out, guys. It's not hard. Learn to do it. You should be able to strip that thing down anyway, so you can clean them.
I had to learn how to do it because I wound up with some ammunition that was the firing pin was piercing the primer, and it locked the gun up.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I should say it didn't lock up the gun; it locked up the firing pin in the firing pin channel.
Okay, but what about all the junk that gets in there?
Exactly.
People never look at them, and they sit down and you get up in the past Mike's area in the woods up there, up in northern Wisconsin, and it's, you know, you're out there for deer season, and it's 30 below zero. Okay, and I've seen it where guys go, and all of a sudden, click. Okay. Yep. Hey, so what do you got to do? You got to reach into your pocket, pull your shoestring out off your boot, pull the firing pin out, get your little cigarette lighter fluid out, douse it, clean it off with your snot rag, put it back in, screw it down, put it back in, you're ready to go again. Okay. How many want to do it when it's 30 below zero?
Yeah.
Nope.
Well, that's a maintenance issue, and that's also the kind of guy you're talking about would be a 2 or 3 round a year shooter.
If that.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't know how to take his firing pin out.
I've seen guys that shoot 30, 40, and 50, 1,000 rounds a year out of their guns. They don't know how to take their firing pin out.
Yep.
What I say, sit down and you always have a shoelace. Okay. If you got a boot, you got a bootlace. I can take them out. I can take them apart. But
you know what? People that know how to take a firing pin out of a bolt gun are about as rare as people that know how to squash a bullet into squash a piece of lead into a good bullet. Good jacketed bullet, I should say. Or you could use like pure lead for 38 special loads.
Yeah.
Swagers, I'm talking about. Swagers.
Mm-hmm.
Great discussion tonight, guys. Honest to God, great discussion.
Jason, you've been quiet. What's going on?
Just listening, absorbing.
Absorbing and learning. Yep.
And forgetting.
Forgetting what?
Exactly. Nice cue, Jason. Nice comeback.
Wait, where am I? And who are all of you?
And you are?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you got that right. Jonathan Whitney, you sure as hell got that right. It's not hard to swage jacket a bullet. It just takes time. My God, does it take time.
I played with that for a while, and it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. Of course, it's getting closer now that you considering that bullets are now in the $30 and $40 for 100.
Well, if you can make your own jackets, it reduces the cost enormously.
Yeah.
But again, it takes time, lots of time, and equipment, and costly equipment too. I mean, to take a strip of copper sheet, a roll, copper sheet, 1/2 inch wide, and punch jackets out of it. You got to have drawing dies, that sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah. I've been to the Hornady plant. I've been to the Sierra plant. I've never been to the Spear plant, but
That's up Travis's way.
yeah. But just watching them draw cups, punch coins, draw cups, anneal
Mm-hmm.
over and over and over again to get a bullet jacket is unreal.
You're right.
It is, and the machines that they use to do it with and how fast they operate.
That's why they can make money.
Right. And they have optical high-speed optical comparators on the jacket line, so they're sitting there going, and when one goes that isn't right, they got a puff of air that comes by and kicks that one off to the side.
Yep, they open a solenoid and air pops out.
Right. And it's all in, a hundredth of a second. It's just unreal. So
that's why I say that's how they can make money, is high-speed production. I've seen the same techniques you're talking about in the glass factories. Same exact techniques, except it takes a bit more air to move a bottle than it does a 1/4 gram bullet jacket.
Yeah. Yeah. But they use it for bullets too.
Oh yeah.
So what we got? Jonathan, can 308 brass from 5.7 brass?
No, he's talking about bullet jackets. Bullet jacket.
I don't know. Like I say, don't play with.
I think he's saying you can do it. It can be done.
Okay. Well, I've seen.
You can take a 32 ACP empty case and swage it into a 357 diameter jacketed bullet.
Okay.
And yes, you still have the extractor groove. You'll still have the fired primer, but it's a cheap bullet.
Time. So what else we need to go into, gentlemen?
So I think about wraps it up for tonight.
Paul, I hope you come back more often.
Okay, anytime.
Indeed.
Anytime you want me, guys.
Okay.
Let me know. We can set this up and make it happen.
Sounds good.
I'm laughing about Hook'em's comment about his new bumper sticker.
Take me drunk, I'm home again.
I didn't want to read it.
I didn't read it. I had it memorized.
Oh, alrighty then. That's your line then, huh?
I kind of like how they say it over at We Like Shooting. Don't drink and drive. Just drink when you get to a stop sign or a red light.
Don't drink and drive. You'll spill your beer.
Okay, that takes a show apart.
That is the Wisconsin state motto. Don't drink and drive. You'll spill your beer.
Yeah, you guys are limited to beer over there. That's right.
No. No, because see, if you're drinking a mixed drink, you can get a cup with a lid on it. No
Yeah. But the proper way to drink a good beer, being from the German area that you are in Wisconsin, is in a mug.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and it's got to be a tall one.
Yeah.
Yep. At least 25 ounces, preferably 32.
We got you down in Muchen, and we go visit some of the bars down there and give you a boot.
Yep.
Ooh.
Boots are fun.
Yeah.
Only at ball games, Knox Spector. Only at ball games. Chico, we're glad we can help you spend more money.
I was just getting ready to say, hey, Chico, I'm glad to see the duck survived.
Yeah, Paul, absolutely. We love having you. We love having you, definitely. Love having the expert.
Hey, I'm still learning. Okay, I am still
all
learning. And I enjoy, but I enjoy that part of it because I know that, all my targets is 3 by 10.
Yeah,
that's it. So that's what I'm dealing with.
Yeah,
I'm not worried about anything else. I got a 3-inch by 10-inch target at the max, and
Roughly twice the size of a gray squirrel.
someday I'm gonna go prairie dog.
Twice the size? Nah. Gray squirrels, I got lots of them. Well, not really.
He might have small grays down there, though.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the big fat corn-fed grays up here. Like we do
Oh,
here.
okay. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
The
Eastern gray squirrel.
Yeah. Around here, there are not many squirrels around. I don't know. I got this fine work pellet rifle, and it just.
I wonder why there's no squirrels in your area with you around, you dog. you crazy squirrel killer.
That's right.
Hey, they're tasty. Knock it off.
You bet.
They are.
Yeah, I haven't had squirrel stew in a long time.
Well, get on that. You're in Carolina.
Yeah.
We got them.
And
Probably across the road.
Yeah.
I have eaten squirrel raggle-faggle. I ain't gonna lie about it.
Raggle what?
Raggle-fraggle.
Fraggle. Okay.
What'd you think I said, Jason? Come on, out with it, dog.
Faggle.
I probably did. It's iced tea starting to get me drunk.
Oh, good grief.
Trying to keep up with you and Hookem, Jason.
That's not a good combination to keep up with.
You're right.
I don't think I'd attempt it.
They fill it with rum all the way to the top.
Remember, Hook'em's in Minnesota, and there's nothing to do in the winter but ice fish and drink.
Mm-hmm. What's Hookem's excuse? He does that year round. He even did it on the podcast. Johnny Walker Black.
We all drink on the podcast. That's the point.
True.
Hey, Paul.
Yes, sir.
I got a bottle I'll send you.
No, thank you. No. No, if you want to send me a bottle, it should be a bottle of single malt, okay? Yeah. At least 18 years old, okay? And that's whiskey with a Y, okay? It has to be 18 years old to be legal.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, Knox Spector has one last question, which we didn't answer earlier, which is better for concentric bullet alignment, RCBS matchmaker seeder or Redding competition seeder? Also, how do these handle different shaped bullets?
Matchmaker is good. Redding is very good. Questionable as far as bullets. You have to sit down and match the bullet to the stem. Number of different ways to do it. Buy extra stems, number one. Number two is to fit the stem to that bullet and put that stem aside so you're just doing it for that bullet. The better you do with that stem to getting it to align with the case, and if you can find somebody who can take a 14 7/8 die blank die, and with nothing in it, have them drill holes directly through it, put a hardened rod through that hole in your press, so it comes down to see how concentric your press is with the shell holder, because that will be a big indication of how well your concentricity is going to be. It leads more towards Jim with his coaxial, but even they can have some issues. Not as many, but most O presses and that will have and can have some alignment problems that way. So, is it the die or is it the press?
Good question.
Okay. So, start with what I say is you start with the press first. Okay. Eliminate the problem there and then go on. I have a RCBS rock chucker over here that has been retired just this year because it's out of spec. It won't hold spec in it anymore. So there's a new Summit over here now that I have, and I have a coax on back order. So
The RCBS Summit is a bench rest quality press.
yes,
It varies it differs than the rock chucker style does because it moves the die up and down, whereas the rock chucker moves around up and down.
yes. There's also more adjustment in the Summit press. Next time I come on, I'll take you guys through it and show you where you can how you can adjust it. But there is adjustment in it. But I have a rock chucker that's got about 40,000 so rounds by primer count on it. And that doesn't mean all the separate operations that it's gone through, but it's no good. 40,000. There you go. It's no good to me.
Yep. Send it back to RCBS, see if they can rebuild it.
I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, I can ship it to them, and what's it going to cost me? $30, right?
Right.
And then
I'm just saying for the average person, if they had that problem, and they, or not the average person, I should say, the tight on funds person, if they, a lot of the.
But are they going to agree that it is out of spec as I test it?
Probably not.
So that's the question that I have.
Right.
Like I say, I actually have a die with a rod that I can screw into that press, lock it down, and then raise it up and down and measure what happens to that rod.
The other thing is, too, remember, we're dealing with companies that make these devices, reloading presses. We're dealing with a company that makes it for production. Probably they wouldn't rebuild it. They would probably replace it.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is I don't want something that is rebuilt unless they wanted to take the time, line bore it, build it up, line bore it, and then prove to me that it's going to be right. So at least with this Summit that I have, I know that I can take the adjustments and adjust it so it is right. And it took me a while to get them right. So.
All right, gang. So on that note, we're going to wrap this one up. Thanks again, Paul, for your time.
Not a problem.
And we look forward to the next time we have you on. So just a reminder, everyone, that with most of the stuff that we've been talking about with both episodes with Paul on, it's not your casual reloader. It's not somebody making plinking ammo. It's not somebody that's just kind of getting into it. It is down the rabbit hole. We're seriously hand loading. So
Paul's so far down the rabbit hole he can't see the light.
he's hanging out with Alice, having some tea.
Yeah. He does a good job of bringing you down there with him, though, sometimes.
Right. So
It's just that too many people can sit down and say, I am a reloader. Move to the next step.
Yep.
Move to the next step. Say, I want to be a hand loader. I want to be able to sit down and say, yeah, okay. May not have to go to the hundredths of a percent that I'm going to do, but a little precision, a little pride in what you're doing.
Yep.
That's all. That's all.
Thanks to everybody that joined us in the chat. Thanks to everybody that sends us emails at reloadingpodcast@gmail.com. Sends us to texts or voicemail 608-467-0308. Special thanks to all of our Patreons. If you want to become a Patreon, head over to firearmsradio.tv/reloading-podcast and look at the bottom of the show notes. There is a link. So grateful for everybody. We do have different levels on that too. We've talked about it in the past in the levels, but if you got any questions, get a hold of me. So Hookem, I think I shouldn't give you any more weekends off with how much you spent this past weekend. So, but
Now we know why he's not married.
right. So on that note, gang, keep your brass shiny.
Be an asset, not a liability.
Teach someone how to powder coat.
As my grandpa told me, despite what your mom told you, violence does solve problems.
Take somebody shooting. Alox Nation! Yay! #1!
Oh, God.